Hey everybody, this is Chris, and we have Sam and Taryn with us. We're the Kula team, and we're really excited to be back on, I think, our 37th, 38th AMA with you guys after a couple of months break. We're truly excited to be together with you guys. They got some really good announcements, and having this space for the last couple of months has been wonderful, just to kind of keep our heads down as a team and keep building and moving forward, but also um, yeah, just preparing for all that's to come. It's been a good run. Sadly, Micah can't be with us today. He's in Dubai, following up from meetings he had last week with family offices, and he's got a couple of meetings with different funds and fund managers this afternoon. So he's not able to join us, sadly, but he sends his best and sincere regards. So yeah, just that first introduction. We are Cooler. Many of you guys know what we're about, but for those of you who may be new with us today, either here or on X, and we're an impact investment company. We've been around for about 4 years, and our entire premise is built on investing in the uninvestable, so places around the planet and different projects that may otherwise be overlooked. We're really very focused on making investments into those places and seeing local stakeholders, local communities, development teams actually succeed in their business opportunities. And we do that through a token structure, through a blockchain-based token structure that provides just that openness and transparency to the projects that we do. And yeah, we're very excited this year to see all that we've achieved. We've been able to launch the token out to the market. We've obtained regulation. We've been platformed in various different places, and we'll be talking more today about our app launch, which we were able to successfully get out to the market last week. So yeah, we're really very excited to be updating what's been going on in the last 2 or 3 months with Cooler. So I'm going to pass over to Sam and Taryn, who are going to start talking and update you guys on recent events that we've been able to be at.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And it's again wonderful to be with everyone here today. It's been a while, it feels like. I think before we did it more frequently. But now it's slowed down a bit, which means we get a chance to accumulate a whole lot more news and updates for everyone. So it's super exciting. So in the Web3 space, as you know, we are decentralized impact investment. So the decentralized piece is critical for what we do. And that's the piece we rely on blockchain for. And blockchain is also known as Web3. So in the Web3 space, there are I guess, two biggest conferences, one of which is called Token 2049. And that conference happens twice a year, one in Dubai, one in Singapore. Tara and I and a couple other folks had opportunity to attend Token 2049 in Singapore this time. So we are here to give you a quick update what happened there, and a few meetings and things like that. First of all, let me just say, on the Token 2049, the main event, along with all the side events, um, I was very honored to be able to speak at three of them, one of them being Token 2049 itself. And then a couple other side events where, for example, CDB3 community, along with actually Polkadot community, kind of interesting there on the impact side of things, just to broadcast what we do. Met quite a few interesting folks. Tara, you want to jump in and talk more about maybe our team on the ground and in the main event and what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sam. I think building on from consensus, actually, we've seen a lot of traction, and that shows, I think, both on the Web 2 side and that Web 3 side. And being boots on the ground over in Token, we had a booth, and we were positioned really well. And I think the really exciting thing that personally I saw, boots on the ground in Token, was the conversation started changing from, "Hey, have you heard about Cooler?" to, "Oh, have you heard about us?" And a lot of people actually were coming to our booth saying, "Yeah, I've heard about you guys online," or I've seen you on different, for example, like different articles online." And it was, I think, for a lot of people, actually, it was a chance to, meet yourself, Sam. It was a chance to meet Hagop. It was a chance to meet Sat, a lot of the team in person, which I think was, is always nice to do. I think Web 3 has a quite an interesting way of working, because often you're behind a screen, and it's great to obviously meet community members. It's great to actually meet people who often, whether it be joining us on our monthly AMAs or whether it be joining us on X, it's always great to, I guess, put faces to names and go through that whole piece. And I think the highlight for me, Sam, was a mixture of actually just speaking to community members, boots on the ground, actually having a booth, having people come and just, us just telling our story. And then also seeing yourself, Sam, actually speak on the stage at Token, I thought was just great. It's kind of like that reflection moment of, how much we've, how far we've come, these past couple of years.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. And as Taryn mentioned, so Consensus is another big Web3 event. And I think there's another one happening in Hong Kong coming up soon. But during Consensus, the one in where were Toronto, right? Right? Is that Toronto?
Okay.
Yeah, so it was quite amazing being there. And I think our project stands out because there are in the impact investment industry, I think we've noticed there are three main problems. One is lack of great opportunities to be presented. Two is lack of standardization and verification of impact. And three is the lack of appropriate exits. And I think for Kula, we're positioned well to solve all three problems. Number one, finding opportunity doesn't seem to be an issue for us. Part of it is we have been really truly blessed, I think, with a lot of great people just on the team, and just through personal connection, we can get into a lot of these areas, even though it may be opaque in nature, but we bring blockchain there to bring transparency for the opportunity. And the impact side of things, we are actually designing our own backend on the database front to collect and to measure those impact. And then for Kula, because of our license, we are able to provide exit in a sense is like exit first strategy in a way, at least on the blockchain space. So ready for all the projects to come on board and we can help them with the exit. So having said that, I'm going to pass it to Chris because we had this huge announcement to make over here.
Yeah, so thanks, Sam. This last 6 months since we launched the token, we've been really, really busy vetting opportunities and making decisions about where to allocate capital, and we've got several great updates to come in weeks and months to come on that front. But just this last week, after now 3 trips to Kenya, of which Sam and I were on one of them together, and we are really, really proud to announce that we have partnered with a company called NZ Mobility, which is based in Mauritius as the parent company, but operates in Kenya as NZ Motors. And we've got a couple of those guys on this call today listening in, and it's been a really wonderful process of working with this team. So what is it doing? What's it about? So NZ Mobility it's actually a motorbike company that's focused on last mile logistics in Africa. And there are several million motorbike riders known locally as boda drivers that essentially provide that last mile logistic transport to home. And so you can be in East Africa and you can see the wild and the wonderful on the back of a motorbike, and it's really spectacular what these guys are skilled at and what they can achieve in terms of moving things around. Whether that be a bed, I've actually seen a coffin on the back of one bike once in Uganda on a previous trip that was on. But again, it's a really significant community that's instrumental and central to East African economy. And what the company are doing is that they have developed a replaceable battery system, a battery swap system for bikes to run on clean energy. There's several $billions a year goes out to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states for procurement of petrol, and by using batteries, each driver is saving around $1,000 a year in terms of their outgoings. So it has a really significant bottom line impact on these guys' drivers who actually have several family members to care for. So this project, from a impact perspective, is actually meeting all sorts of significant and very important metrics just in local economic development and clean energy. But we really like the team and we like the project. And in many ways, there's actually several other companies working in the country in this particular area, but they've got some unique IP and some really interesting data collection processes going on in the background that just made this a fantastic opportunity. But I think what more than that, it's just the quality of the team that we've invested into. We very quickly found a good level of resonance with both the CEO and the CEO. They're both wonderful guys, perfect values alignment with what we want to achieve in Kula, but just really wonderful in terms of a business model. So the upside is actually really good for expansion, not just in East Africa but also globally. But more than that, we just really saw the quality of the team and what they actually have delivered in this last 3 years and where they're heading as a business. So we're super excited to partner with them, and yeah, we're really hopeful here in a few months to come once they've got operational. And Sam's going to talk a little bit more about just exactly what we'll be doing with them from a token and governance side. But yeah, we're really excited to have them on an AMA and just share a little bit more about their project directly. So yeah, Sam, I'll just pass to you to talk a little bit more about what they're going to be what we're going to be actually building for them and working with them in.
Sure. Yeah, before I start talking about that, yes, I'd like to remind everyone, feel free to submit questions on the Q&A part. We'll be happy to answer them afterwards. So yeah, NZ is such an exciting opportunity. Love those guys, great team. We're there checking out their project from obviously the theoretical component, the business plan, all that, and then we were able to go into the plant to look at the assembly of bikes, the batteries going in there. Switching from petrol to battery saves people money. That's obviously a measurable impact there. More importantly is the fact that we get to bring the community together. So the word Boda is really based off the word border, and the Boda is really people drive, bikes from like one border to the next, right? So the Boda is the community, and those Boda riders, like when I arrived, that's my first time in Kenya. Like I just saw these guys, sitting on their bikes under trees, and I wasn't sure exactly what they're doing, but turned out that is their last mile delivery. I thought it was like kind of it was basically like a Uber, right? But they use motorcycles to fit the road conditions in Africa. What I've noticed is that there are different territories, I guess, for the boda riders, and they tend to get separated. But what we're hoping for is to create a community along with the NZ team that we can have a reward token for the participation of these, boda riders. And depending on simple variables like the distance, written every day, or could be more complex variables that we built into the model, they get these rewards for becoming part of this community member. And as they accumulate the reward, they then get to claim some kind of discount, for example, when they swap out their batteries using the token they've earned. So it's really like a mint and burn model that we're building over there for them. And that is the idea of a reward token. Now, the DAO idea come in because then they get to really vote on, where to have the next, maybe the charging station, right? How can the battery swapping operation go more smoothly? There are these detailed operating issues. Maybe at the company level, it's very difficult to see, but with the participants, then everything becomes a lot more clear. Along with that, maybe a little plug for NZ. They have built a fantastic IoT, Internet of Things, kind of a network to measure and predict the battery failure. Because a lot of times the batteries fail, not because the entire battery is broken, it's because the cells within the battery is broken. So the sensors can actually go as deep as the cell themselves. And then on the bike, there are different IoT devices, one of which that's super impressive is to measure the acceleration and deceleration of the bikes and the tilting. So if a bike rider got into an accident, it is very obvious to the team, to the platform, then obviously help could be called immediately. And along with that detailed measurement, predictive models could be utilized to tell the driver your bike, your battery is about to break and coming in for a swap before the event actually happens. So I think this is a huge potential for the area. And the token we are about to build for the reward side is going to be called the Boda token, because one day it's going to expand beyond the border of Kenya and into different areas. So that's super exciting.
Yeah,
Is there anything I've missed, Chris?
I think it's really comprehensive, Sam. It's good. It's a good update. There'll be videos going out on socials later, just to update everybody about it. And our website will be updated with more news. So you're hearing it here first. It's the scoop of the AMA today. So thank you for showing up and hearing about it here first. But we've got some good updates going out on our social media channels here in a few hours' time.
And I think just to add to that as well, I think the new contract with NZ really shows how far Cool has come. You know, going back 3 to 4 years ago, we were very much focused around natural resources and commodities. And whilst that is still a focus, now going into a new market of logistics and now speaking about actually how we can have impact in those areas, kind of I think shows how far and how well stretched our model is. And I think that was really showed actually over these past couple of weeks. Chris, I know you went to Berlin. You went to the Impact, the actual conference on impact investment. Do you want to just kind of just talk about that for a few minutes and what your takeaways were there? Because that was a big conference in its own right.
Yeah, I can. It's really true, and I think the issue of impact in investment is becoming, or has become, and is becoming increasingly more important, even as like national level mandates starting to come down, where investment going into other countries has to meet certain thresholds. And so a project like NZ, where these guys that are running the project are just so focused on the impact in individuals' lives, and the fact that these guys can put their kids in school and feed their children as a significant impact whilst also running a great profitable business, is exactly the type of outcome that corporations and businesses and funds are buying into. So I was able to go to this the Impact Investment Network meeting in Berlin last week, which was really in some ways kind of eye-opening. But I've worked for 20, 30 years on the non-profit side, and actually being in a space that's now focusing on the same issues but from an investment side was quite fascinating, in seeing many of the crossovers. But I think again, we're and this will actually lead into what was the next topic to kind of talk about, but where we're really a governance first platform, baking that impact into a governance framework as a primary kind of solution, is something that the impact investment networks and funds, in terms of funds that focus on impact, they actually don't have access to. And so we've, from a product positioning for Kula, we're in a really strong position to actually disrupt and be instrumental in changing how funds, family offices, and institutional investors look at how they score and develop, and then essentially get the impact as a material financial outcome at the end of their process. That was just really great to be there, and again, just lots of good connections for what that means for Kula in terms of its business model and how it can provide solutions to the larger questions being asked by that community. But to that end, the next big announcement that we have, I feel like I'm kind of hogging all the big announcements, but this one's particularly dear to me because we initially started as a project asking the question, and is it possible for local stakeholders to actually have a voice? And so much of, again, from my background in development, where people are given and promised voice in terms of a project that will affect their lives materially, the reality as it unfolds is often that they get displaced off the land and don't get any of the upside of an asset or a essential kind of commodity that they've lived on or been around for, for themselves and their ancestors for actually generations. And so the question that's really where Kula kind of emerged from. Is it possible? And we came up with a solution. We've tested it and we've trialed it and we've launched it. But in the last 6 months after we launched the token, we didn't want to launch our app on token launch day because we weren't ready, and we didn't want that to detract from the significance and the headlines of getting the token out the door. And actually taking that time has given us several months to really test and make sure that the governance side of the utility that sits in the Kula token works. And we are so proud last Monday to be able to launch the Kula governance app. So if you have Kula tokens, and for those of you that will be getting Kula tokens here in the next few days, having those tokens allows you to access our app, and you can go to our website and click on the app button and it'll take you right through. There's lots of instructions and good updates there. That gives you then the ability no longer just to hold Kula tokens passively, but to be part and parcel of the governance of Kula as a business. So you have tokens, you can go onto the app, you can look at the proposals and the legislation, the decision making that's being posted there. If you agree with it, you can vote, you can participate. If you disagree, you can vote, participate. We have community chat boards in a platform called Discord, which in our second generation will be bringing that into the app as well. So all the chat functionality will be inside the app in the future. But it means that you can be part and parcel of helping us make decisions as a protocol. Now, there's a centralized aspect in the sense there's a real legal entity that's responsible to, and actually been given the responsibility and the authority to make those decisions and present them back to the DAO. But it means that as a token holder, you can participate in helping direct and steer where we make investments, what type of investments we should we make. And as a token holder, you can also make proposals. You know, if there's a proposal that says I'd like Kula to buy me a new car, that proposal is probably not going to see the light of day. But if it's a proposal about what would improve Kula substantially, we'll pass that through for the DAO and the token holders to vote on. So you can be part of that process. And you know, um, I can say this, I'm a Brit, but I think one of the most amazing pieces of technology that we have on the planet today is actually the US Constitution. And there's actually, of the near 200 nations on Earth, something like 160 or so have a form of constitution that's modeled on that constitution. And that constitution, really, when you look at what it's enabled in terms of the freedom to develop an economy within a set of parameters, has really been revolutionary in this last 200-300 years on planet Earth. And so what we've actually built in Cooler isn't a DAO that's got free rules for everyone and creates chaos, and it's not this centralized decision-making team that essentially ensure that people must do things a certain way. Coola's constitution is built in such a way that it leverages both sides of the equation and enables people to really to participate in how things evolve and grow, but also within some frameworks and understanding that we have to operate in a real world with real legal limits. And so that's what we've been able to launch to the market, and it's one of the most unique products out in the blockchain space, I would argue. It doesn't mean that there aren't other DAOs out in the world that are functioning and working well. But as it's specifically designed for a specific purpose at a specific time. And whilst it's slow beginnings, it's early days, I'm really convinced that it's going to be a substantial part of the solid foundations and thinking and philosophical underpinnings that makes any business, any enterprise really function healthily, and actually creates the value that leads that long-term foundational kind of transformational change that we're after in Cooler. So I'm genuinely thrilled. I think token launch in April was a really incredibly exciting time for Cooler after years of trying to develop and get that product out to market. But last Monday was probably my highlight, and then just last Thursday, and we actually formally passed the constitution as a DAO and became a fully operational legal entity, both in the real world but also on chain. And those two things are legally attached to each other. So it's a huge milestone for Cooler, and really exciting moment for the history of this project and now business. But also, I think the first step, and we're really excited. We're now just weeks out from deploying that for the NZ team, so they've got their own governance platform and way of operating at a regional DAO level. And I think when we start to see that level of integration happening, we can really say that Cooler has achieved and laid down its first layer of objectives of what we set out to achieve 3-4 years ago. And I think as well, credit to many of you on this call today that have been early and pre-investors in that dream and that vision. It's truly transformational. It's truly a different model and a way of doing what we set out to do. And we couldn't have been here. It's not like us on the Cooler team have had a bunch of good ideas. Yes, we've worked hard and we've got there, but we couldn't have done it without all of you guys being alongside us and cheering us along the way. So we're really very, very grateful for that as well.
Yeah. Well, the app will get better over time. I mean, there are a lot of ideas that we want to implement on the app itself, including transparency of the asset, the community. There are some stuff that's behind the scenes that we're thinking through. Regional DAOs, regional DAO token, relationship with Kula DAO. So there are certain things that we get to kind of work out in the back. But I think by version probably 2 or 3, we'll get most of these issues worked out. But certainly exciting for sure. Let's see. Let me go check my notes real quick. Oh, I think that's kind of it. Maybe one more thing I want to say is there are a lot of opportunities coming to us now. The conferences we've been attending and just by the sheer location that we're in for the whole team, we are collecting, well, we're growing our pipeline just to get ready for capital deployment, get ready for investing to great projects with great and measurable impact. That's on one side of the equation. On the other side of the equation is really attracting capital like OTC deals or family offices, investors purchasing Kula token at retail level or at bulk. And then like that money come into us, then we get to deploy in a meaningful, impactful manner. So both sides are growing. Right now, let's move on to Q&A if there's time here.
Yeah. There's a good first question for you here, Taryn. I think you're in the driving seat on answering this one about new opportunities for listing on exchanges.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I think we're in a strong position. Having launched just 6 months ago, we are listed already on three centralized exchanges, and we are liaising with multiple tier ones and multiple tier 1/2s. I think it's with exchanges, what we are building out is quite a comprehensive exchange listing strategy. We don't want to just, I think, list on one exchange and then keep moving on to the next. What we actually are deploying is quite a well thought out strategy, which is best for both project and our existing community. But that to say, we're positive. Conversations thus far are going well, and we hope to bring you some good news in the future. We can't say when, but we hope to be able to provide you something. I have to keep this very vague, Chris,
That's
but
fine.
we're positive.
Not a problem. Thanks, Taryn. Maybe I can take the next one, Sam, if that's all right, just on the app.
Yeah.
The question here is like, can you clarify the nature of the app platform? The person asking the question says it doesn't seem to be standalone, but rather a web-based interface that connects through MetaMask or a wallet. Is that correct? And so the answer to that is absolutely that is correct. It's not a Web2 based app because we are a decentralized platform using blockchain technology, and really the heavy lifting is done by the wallet and the code that sits behind that in terms of stamping decisions made to the blockchain, which requires then that interface of wallet with app. The question goes on, or it's kind of a statement question, but it seems difficult for more novice token holders, and there's an easier way to do this than connecting private wallets through MetaMask. I appreciate that question. We've actually worked really hard, and I'm very proud of our dev team for the full Web2 way of approaching the governance and as minimal as possible, actually signing off decisions through a MetaMask or another wallet that allows those smart contracts to operate. But that's the nature of what we're doing, right? So where we can make those decisions and record them to a database without that functionality, it's the very essence of the interaction with a smart contract that's stamping all of those decisions to a blockchain, which creates the openness and the transparency. And because it's on chain, then the immutability, i.e. it can't be changed later. So we're able then to verify decisions that are made, be clear about what the process was of decisions made. And that makes a difference because when those decisions are directly related to financial flows, it means there's a degree of control in both directions of decisions made and financial flows that creates, again, that accountability and that almost ledger of operational provenance, the history of how decisions and things were made. And that's really the essence of what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to create that way that because it's on chain and because it's not just done on a database that someone can manipulate in the background, and we're actually able then to prove that decisions made and the changes that have come because those decisions can be shown very openly along the way. So unfortunately, at this point, there is actually no catch-all way of doing that. And I genuinely believe that, in months and years to come, as more and more technological solutions and breakthroughs happen, that will become more normal, and it will almost be happening without people realizing that. But the state of our current architecture isn't there yet. So again, think of it like, maybe it's a little crude, but we're kind of at the dial-up stage of that process, and there'll be, in a couple of decades, it'll operate like Wi-Fi and broadband, but we're not quite there yet. So yes, it is difficult, but again, I'm really proud of our team because they've worked very, very hard. So again, if you go to our website, look at our app website page. There's videos, instructions, all of the resources that you need to be able to get you through those learning hoops. But also, if you've got any problems, you can go to our Discord channel and talk to the community there. We've got people 24/7 in that space to answer questions, support you if you come up against any problems, and basically handhold anybody through that process if they need that level of support. And we put all that in place. And again, just really proud of our team to be able to do that.
I think
Yeah, if I can make one comment, sorry, Taryn, if I can make one
Yeah.
comment, that it is possible. I think like one of the bottleneck of using Web3 is Web3. Like if there's a Web2 interface, for example, right? Like Face ID direct link to MetaMask without remembering all your private key or whatever. Uh, I mean, I think we're looking into stuff like that. I just wanted to make a mention. Chris is right though, like using blockchain, make it immutable, transparent. That's the essence of the whole whole project. We cannot let that go. However, we could look into some sort of convenient way, perhaps to help with these login issues. That is on the roadmap, but we certainly don't want to like overpromise and underdeliver. Sorry, Taryn, I think I cut you off.
no, you're good, Sam. I was just going to add in, I think that was, I think the part of the parcel of actually why we made our own application. There's actually quite a few applications out there already on the market, which we didn't really feel as though was a good fit for what we wanted to achieve. And I think
Great.
part of this, our own application means we also control, how we deploy things. I think as Sam's probably getting onto, a common question that we get is, well, if there's a proposal that's being going through, how do you actually discuss the proposal? And then you have to go onto Discord. So it's a separate entity at the minute. And that's where, we appreciate that I think there is a slight bottleneck. We appreciate that there's definitely further improvements that are required later down the line. But one thing that I think we can stand quite firm on is that where we've landed to at the minute is quite unique in the space. And so I think that it's not just I don't think this is just an application difficulty for just Kula. I think it's for the crypto Web3 space in general. And I think that as
Yeah.
this more and more commonplace, I think as Chris was alluding to, there will be kind of, if you like, that overlap between, just your normal phone and then the Web3 side of things as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe I can take the next one. So question is, when does Kula plan to start allocating investment to projects? With that being said, is there a process plan on how to determine the priority of each project for allocation? So Kula has already started deploying capital to projects. And in terms of allocation, there is a process. Well, we have our investment mandate, like we have our kind of like the pretty clearly written in terms of impact that we're looking for. And then we don't even specify return in many cases because we don't know the return will be associated with what type of impact. However, from what we have noticed from, even case of NZ, for example, the return associated with impact could be much larger than people expect. Now, in terms of allocation, I guess really come down to a portfolio level of how do we construct a portfolio. We would like to have diversification across geopolitical landscape, across asset type. And as Taryn mentioned, NZ investment is a huge step for us moving forward. Part of it is because we are stepping away from a commodity space, I would say, because of our legal structure that is cleverly designed and implemented by our CEO, Paul. The PCC structure, the protected cell company structure, allows us to make investment into companies such as NZ. So we have been looking into other areas, for example, Asia, of multiple opportunities at really different industries. And I think then in terms of capital allocation, if one project asks for like tons and tons of money that is like exceeds what we can possibly do, then it's actually even at that point it's not a no, because we could simply do a like a very special round of raise for that one particular project if it meets all of our criteria and it helps us strategically into the future. Then over a period of time, we go back and look at the data, we look at the transparency, we look at the impact that a project has, we look at the investment dollar volume, we look at the tech stack, how is it being utilized? For example, organic growth of the app users. And with all these metrics and some more, we can then construct like a dashboard type of looking interface for us to determine how, when, and where to deploy more capital in the future. Let's see. So I'm trying to.
It's
You want to take the next one, Chris?
sure. Actually, I'm gonna ask Taryn to reflect on it a little bit. So the question, Taryn, is what projects? Sorry, in terms of it jumped up. In terms of companies trying to do what Kula does, where does Kula rank in terms of success? I'd love to know what you think of that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think one thing that I've realized, reflecting on Kula's positioning, I mean, if you look at the past just 3 weeks alone, I think on one hand we're going to crypto conferences and we're speaking there, it's Token 2049. On the other hand, we're speaking on panelists at family offices summits in the UAE, in Dubai, with some of the largest family offices across the Middle East. I think the point I'm getting at is we're starting to see more and more actually that Kula really does sit in quite a unique spot where a Web 2.5 entity, we have the crypto component through our token, and then we also have the Web 2 component, as I think Chris and Sam have spoken about in terms of our structure. Where I think we rank in terms of success, I think it depends on how you determine success. If we are looking at it just purely from price action, or if you're looking at it in terms of investments, if you're looking at it in terms of impact side, these are all different success metrics. If you look at it in terms of even market cap, I think the question here is, well, how do we determine success? Typically in the Web3 space, I think it's very much a case on based on market cap alone, which at the minute we're sitting around 350 million, where that positions us in the top by market cap as companies. I think that makes us top 250 to 300. But I think for us, and Chris, I'm going to pass this over to you. I think success, moving now over to more of a traditional structure for me comes down to, well, it comes down to actually, well, what utility do we have? What's our actual business modeling? And more importantly, being an impact investment firm, what impact are we having and what investments are we actually making as a firm? And so for me, making and announcing the NZ contract for me, is a sign of actual true success. It's actually deploying and setting out what we set to achieve. And Chris, I think one thing I can probably pass over to you on this is, how do we determine the success of impact? How is that measured? Because I know that that's something that which came up quite a lot at our panel at the Family Office Summit.
Yeah, a good question to follow on from that. I think, it's not just the case that we look at a project, decide to invest and think, oh, what impact does that have? And oh, it does a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it fills that box a bit. And it's actually instrumental to how we look at our investments. And that goes back to kind of what Sam just said a minute ago. We don't just, this is not a blind process for us. We're vetting, we're going through very clear frameworks from an investment side, which includes, the origination, due diligence, the underwriting, the whole process of actually then working out what's the value of the company, what's the potential long-term return. But that is all within this larger lens of it's called materiality. What's the material impact on the financial bottom line of this project with regard to its long-term impact in areas of its environmental impact, its community impact, and its governance impact. And there's a whole then set of metrics that then we've got 12 core metrics that we apply to the projects that we're looking at and assessing where they fall within that. And it doesn't mean that they've got to have good results to be included, but what we're looking for is the ability to scale and move through and demonstrate the improvement from a point in time to a point in time on the level of impact that that project has. And that's material in today's financial investment markets. And it's absolutely central to how Kula is operating, because if we can't see that, we won't make the investment. If we don't have a partner that's in agreement or aligned to that, we won't make the investment with that partner. And I think it's so great because the truth is NZ as a partner, they've already done that work. So it's been quite easy and quite quite fun actually already to kind of look at, okay, this team have actually incorporated all of that into these different projects. And we've also had many conversations with potential projects where they've been like, you know what, we're not interested and we don't want to do that. And it's like, okay, that's fine. We won't waste your time, and we've got plenty of other opportunities to look at. And I'm just going to use this to segue to the next question, which is like, what do projects look like in the US, and are you currently working on deals stateside? And the answer to that is yes, we are. We've got a project at the moment that we're looking at investing to in North America that's actually working and working on an environmental impact side, dealing with pollution and problems that have been experienced in Eastern Europe. And how those get tied together, will become more apparent in future AMAs when we can get to update. We're in the process of the due diligence on that project right now, and rapidly moving towards the kind of final steps of that to be able to announce it. But just a kind of a little kind of taster of what's to come. We're really busy in the background. We've got great projects coming to us all the time, and there's other opportunities in coffee and restaurants that Sam's been vetting in East Asia, and just there's so many great things that we look at, and it's like, wow, we could do this, we could do that, and they all fit within this model because it actually is fundamentally, at the end of the day, transformationally changing what it is like at the grassroots. And again, that as a financial bottom line is that when people are being transformed, people actually become more productive, they become more engaged, they become more focused on business. And traditionally, that has been seen as a softer side of how investments are made and money is made through good investment. But actually, it's becoming so material and so central to the process because the upside is really clear, and it actually adds value to the actual long-term investment portfolio that Kula is building.
I can take the next one.
Go for it.
The question is, now that both the token has launched and the app is live, what's the next critical step for Kula from both the impact standpoint as well as business standpoint? One big thing that's coming up is a traditional wrapper to our token that will allow access to a much larger population. I cannot speak any more beyond that, but that is the idea. And then that will be huge on the business side of things. And then in terms of the impact standpoint, we are creating a set of quantitative measures. Actually, Chris has, you have made like just an app already to demonstrate what could it look like. Now, how do we implement that in the app across the regional DAOs, and then be able to create almost like a dashboard for someone to look at when we do our reporting, which really, now that we're live, should be quarterly reporting. And how do we then update that, right? It's not just like one time put a nice PDF out there or something like that. Is what is it that we're doing that's integrated with blockchain that is actually the data is updated, hopefully at near real time. And that's a major challenge to the whole entire industry. And we're doing our step to make that a little bit more clear. So these are the two biggest things we're working on. Hopefully we'll have more to report very soon. Something about next one. I'm new to Kula. Welcome. Happy you're here. Forgive me if this has been asked before. If there a simple way for US-based US-based folks to acquire Kula token, the exchanges will operate on licensed US-based. That is true. When our traditional wrapper is completed, it will have a specialized gateway to American investors. Also, if we are listed onto, we're in the process of talking to L1s, right? So there are a few L1, the kind of like the tier one, sorry. There are a few exchanges and tier one exchanges that are open to American investors. Once we're there, we'll make a huge announcement about that as well.
I'll take the next one here, Sam. Now that Kula has secured a first of its kind VASP license from the FSC in Mauritius, is the team pursuing other similar licenses from other jurisdictions? I would say the answer is yes and no. So yes, part of our global license requires us to make sure that we've got necessary approvals in the jurisdictions that we operate where those regulations exist. And so we're actively now working in Kenya. So beyond NZ, there's actually two other projects that we've made active steps on, in terms of preparing due diligence there in Kenya. And they just announced in their house about 6-7 days ago that the new VASP laws have just been passed. So I'll be meeting with the capital markets team tomorrow to start that process and make sure that we're fully able to operate. So no, in the sense that we're not formally going after another level of regulatory approval, and yes, in the fact that we're doing that where we need to and working very closely with the authorities in the countries where there are frameworks and laws in place so that we can operate legally and operate well. I think I'm really excited about Kenya because it's the second biggest crypto market on the African subcontinent, and like that's well ahead and well above the curve of most European countries, honestly. And so it's a great environment to kind of have a strong foothold. So we're excited about moving that forward as well. And we also are just to be really clear, over the last 3-4 years, as we've gone through the various different jurisdictions attempting to get some form of regulation, what the upside of that journey has been that we've picked up all of the industry kind of like A grade standards for how we need to operate as a token based project, and we're attempting to stay and always strive to be at that highest level of compliance with regard to the various different requirements that are put on projects like ours. So even though we're not necessarily registered in Europe, we're very confident that our regulatory and the standards by which we operate would be MiCA compliant, which is the EU level of compliance. So that enables us then to talk with both exchanges and other entities about where we are regulated and what regulatory standards we do come up to. So we've and having done that now, and we've been through that process for the last 3-4 years, it's really exciting because it means we can actually be really adept in making moves when we need to make moves without fear of having to reinvent the wheel or redo things. And so we're in a really strong place in terms of that place now, and just really grateful to have obtained that regulatory approval earlier this year, for which has been just really a game changer in how we're able to go to market across these different jurisdictions.
Cool. Actually, I'm gonna skip one question. I'll come back to the previous question
Yeah.
about the clarification is about asking when Kula tokens will be more easily accessible to US investors. When? Well, so like, okay, so first of all, the assumption here is retail investors purchasing Kula token. So then you got to buy it from like a crypto exchange. Then the tier ones, will allow US investors to do that. So the likes like, for example, Kraken, CDC, the crypto.com, right? For example. When will the tier ones approve our token listing is beyond our control. So we really don't know that. The traditional wrapper that I've mentioned will also allow US investors to invest into Kula. We're aiming to wrap that work this quarter. Now, it's kind of like this, it's hard to promise a date or something like that, but I think this quarter will be very likely for us to complete that work. Along with that work, it'll be a huge incentive for some of the tier ones to list us. So that will be kind of work in tandem there. So we're aiming, hopefully by Christmas, we'll have some good news for everyone. Now, if we go above and beyond that assumption, the retail investor, if you are like an institutional investor or somebody interested in purchasing our token OTC, over the counter deal, we are offering 1 million US minimum ticket size that we can give token incentives to if you're institutional, and just please contact us directly. We can work out the details there. And then the previous question is about jobs. Sorry, I had to skip that. That's a great idea. Actually, we have quite open openings, don't we? We did not put like a page or something on our website. but Paul is taking care of that part. I think we're going to hire a key like individuals to be like a C-suite, and then after that, it's up to those individuals to expand the team even further. Um, and for me, because I'm in Asia right now, like I'm growing a team in Asia to help with marketing in different areas. Asia is just like one word, but it's really a lot of moving parts, different languages everywhere, different culture, right? So we'll certainly grow in this area. And feel free to contact us if you're interested. Cool.
Next question. As Kula grows, do you think there's a possibility of putting out nodes to different countries or regions of the world so that, say, in Kenya or Brazil, or even a smaller community within a larger country could start its own sub-DAO structure, adopting the Kula constitution, working with smart governance, and some oversight from Kula? Basically, it would allow others to deploy Kula structure on their own while being part of the larger community. So the that was not a rambling question for the person that wrote it. It's a really great question, and the answer to that is yes. We are very clear that we can. The word the phrase is basically white label. So whether people take our software structure and use it under their own name, under their own label, we can white label our governance software to other companies, businesses, and even local authorities or governments, for them to use that system. We will be doing this. It's part of our business model as we grow. We've really chosen intentionally throughout the rest of throughout 2025 to launch the token, get our governance app out, functional, growing and working, so that we've got really good proof of concept, and then next year, once we've got some more capacity in our team, to start providing basically what we call Kula services. So we have a business, part of our business structure and business model is to start providing that and other forms of blockchain-based solutions for businesses throughout the world, in this area, and kind of capture that market as well. It's very exciting. I'm very looking forward to when that does happen, when we've got parts of our community out and about doing things, and that being powered by Kula. I'm looking forward to seeing that in the bottom right corner of powered by Kula. It's going to be exciting when we see that come. Next question, I'm going to read it out for one of you guys to answer. Can you tell us a bit more about how Kula participated in the Family Office Summit in Dubai recently? We shared a panelist spot on impact investing, and yeah, I don't know if you maybe something you can answer more about, Taryn, because you've got some more connection to that space.
Yeah, sure. So Kula was honored, I guess, to speak actually at the Family Office Summit in Dubai. We shared a panel with a prominent family office out in Dubai, speaking about our approach to impact investment and also our approach to philanthropy. I think a lot of people, especially on the family office and institutional side, are particularly interested in, yes, the impact piece, but how can we prove the impact piece? And I think that's where the application and that's where the blockchain component is really useful. I think being in the space now, and I think being able to speak on such panels, I think puts into kind of, if you like, I think perspective on, I think quite how we're pioneering the space. The feedback I got very much from the summit was actually, well, this hasn't really been heard of before, and we are not only just pioneering, but almost, I think, just setting the tone of what impact investment looks like in the Web3 space. But more to follow. I know there's a lot of follow-ups from the team. I know Mike is leading that space. He's actually in Dubai right now. So I guess I'll let Micah give an update when an update is due. But we're excited and we're happy to, I guess, participate in all these different summits.
Thanks, Taryn. Last question here. I'll jump on it. Has the political situation in Nepal affected the hydropower project? And I would say yes, it has affected the projects in Nepal, very positively, which maybe isn't what would be expected. But for those of you who don't know, there was a pretty strong uprising by Generation Z, Gen Z in Nepal about a month and a half ago, and that overthrew the current Prime Minister and the ex-Prime Minister and the kind of the political classes that circle around power. And yeah, they pretty much got rid of that entire previous kind of political structure in this last month. And currently there's the president appointed a stand-in lady as Prime Minister who used to be in the judiciary, and she is now steering the country towards its next election. Micah has been on the ground for the last few days, so he's just got back to Dubai today, and he's been in Nepal for the last 3-4 days. And just again, just really actually very good reports, just in terms of just the political attention has swung to more long-term, more open and transparent ways of governance and economic activity, where before, whilst we really did have favourites operating in a very much more traditional way that there's been of some disagreement to those younger generations. But we are commencing on feasibility studies actually for the hydropower projects, and I think that it's only going to go in great directions. So again, just lots of continued favour, even with the new administration and administrative staff in positions of power. And I think it's actually really benefited Kula long term, and will be really good for our work and our business there.
Great. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you for some great questions today, guys, and sticking with us. Yeah, we've barely had anyone drop off in the last hour, which is really exciting. And just really want to say thank you again to all of you guys for being with us and sticking with the project and showing such incredible interest. And I want to say one last appeal. You know, if you've got tokens, go to our website, get on the app, and enjoy playing in that space and figuring out how to vote. There'll be some new proposals going up in the next few days here for ongoing legislation that we will pass to keep us moving forward from a governance perspective. And just incredibly grateful for each of you. And yeah, we really thank you for believing in this business and what we're building together here.
I think one thing I can say is we will be sharing more information on the announcement of NZ in the hours to come. So thank you for tuning in. I guess this was your the hanging fruit for joining the AMA. But yeah, we'll be releasing the whole news and kind of going through exactly what that looks like over the next couple of hours and the next couple of days as well.
Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. See you next
Thank
time.
you. Bye bye
Thank
now.
you.